Hey guys, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast where you learn how to create a beautiful home and build a creative business. Grab a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot in the house, and let's chat. I'm excited you're here. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode number 70, the one where we talk about how to work from home when you have kids home from summer. Yes, this podcast is especially for all of my work-at-home moms, also known as WAHMs. It's funny, the first time I saw WAHM on social media, I was like, I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what that means. Do you know you can ask Siri and Google everything, ladies? No, listen, for real. I had to go to Google that and ask Urban Dictionary what a WAHM was. This is also, by the way, how I figure out what my kids are texting back and forth when I don't know what the little letters stand for. I just Google that stuff. So yeah, if you're a WAHM, a work-at-home mom, you're going to love this podcast. And if this does not apply to you, I would love it if you would send this to your sister-in-law, to your neighbor, to your friend who's got this side hustle going, who's got this little business going, who's got this big business going, and who is probably currently at home freaking out, wondering how she is going to get anything done while her kids are home for the summer. So listen, I'm super excited that you're here and can't wait for us to be able to chat today. So first of all, this podcast is sponsored by my Inner Circle. This is my monthly business group that has been closed since January, and we will be reopening it just for a 48-hour period on June the 27th. We have a brand new schedule in my Inner Circle. We have a brand new library with over 40 trainings that you are going to have access to. So if you are not on the waiting list, I encourage you to go to jenniferallwood.com/inner-circle, and you will be notified as soon as that bad boy opens back up. Okay? All right. So let's get started. Listen, I want to just tell you briefly my story, which is this. I started the Magic Brush 17 years ago, y'all. And first of all, just saying that makes me think, how on earth am I this old? It doesn't even seem possible. So I started the Magic Brush 17 years ago and was pregnant with our first son, Noah, just a few months after. And so worked until I was 8 months pregnant and was the size of a small Volkswagen, and then figured out that my belly and working on a ladder, that, they just weren't compatible, guys. They just didn't work well together. And so that's when I started hiring other women to come and work for me, and that worked really great. So essentially, from the time I had Noah until the time that we closed down my painting business last year, I have ran my business from home. I have always had a team of women out in the field who are painting for me every day. And so the only thing that I know is working with a baby on a hip. The only way I ran my business was with my kids constantly being underfoot. And so I feel like I can add so much to this conversation about working from home when your kids are at home, because that's all I know. That's all I did. Mr. Magic and I were really committed to not putting our children in full-time daycare. They did go to a mom's day out, and they did go to preschool, but those were only for a couple hours a week. And so I had to figure out how to be super resourceful and get stuff done with my babies at home. And listen, the good news about owning a business while you have children at home and while you're raising kids is that moms are some of the most creative, most resourceful people on the planet. Look, you want to get something done, you give it to a mom. And I'm not joking. Remember that old TV show, MacGyver? How was MacGyver not a mom? I don't even know, because moms are the most MacGyver-y people on the planet. I for real believe that with all of my heart. And so, ladies, if you are working from home and you have small kids and you are freaking out because you're super excited they're about to be home with you for the entire summer, whether they've been in grade school or middle school or even high school, but you're also freaking out because how are you about to still run this business with them at home? There is great hope. Okay, so I've got quickly 8 tips for you. 8 tips that are going to help you get some things done regardless of the age of your children. Are you ready? Okay, number 1, I want you to work while they sleep. Listen, sleep is like God's gift to mothers. When they're toddlers, or when they're babies, let's say that, they take a lot of naps. When they're toddlers, they're still napping in the afternoon. And then when they get to where they're in middle school and high school, they want to stay up all night on the InstaFace, which is code for Instagram or Snapchat or whatever teenagers are doing. And then they want to sleep until 10, 11, 12 in the morning. So working while your kids sleep has always been key for me. As I'm speaking on this podcast right now, all three of my children are upstairs sound asleep. It's 8:00 in the morning, and they're going to be sleeping in. I know I have a chunk of time with absolute silence as long as the doorbell doesn't ring and Stella the pup doesn't go crazy. But while my kids sleep is key for me. Now listen, when they were younger and they went to bed earlier, I would wait until they were in bed at 8:30, 9:00 at night, and I would work then. I am definitely a morning person and not a night owl. But basically, this is what I figured out I had to do. I had to take my kids' schedule and I had to take my family schedule. And for a season, I had to wrap my business around what we were already doing to make it work. Does that make sense? Now, there has been a shift, especially since we brought Mr. Magic home from corporate America and he's working with me, and the business has definitely, grown. You can no longer, when you're running a 7-figure business, wrap your business needs around your family. So it has to be totally different and way more structured. But in the beginning, I was wrapping around my business, what our family was already doing, and just making it work. So while they're sleeping, listen, that's the prime time, mamas, for you to be working. Tip number 2, take your kids to places where they can be playing and you can be working. Listen, I did this for years and years and years. We have in the Kansas City area tons of bounce house places or trampoline parks or indoor play places or shopping malls that have a little area, in the middle where the kids can play. I have even been known to take a tablet and a pen and be writing out blog posts when I've taken my kids to a park, when I've taken them to the creek. And listen, I'm not saying, moms, to be working all the time and just glaze over and not be paying attention to your kids this summer. That is not what I'm promoting at all. But what I am saying is that there would be times when I would find myself at the bounce house with the kids and I didn't bring a laptop and I didn't bring anything to write with. And I would be just sitting there for 2 hours playing on Facebook. And it became obvious to me, what the heck am I doing? This is a wasted 2 hours when I'm playing on Facebook. I need to be, A, working on Facebook. And number 2, I need to be using this time to try to get some stuff done. The kids don't care if I'm sitting there staring at them or not. Do you know what I mean? All they want to do is they want to go down that big, huge slide 1 more time, 20 more times, 100 more times. So for me to be able to work and get stuff done during that period is super important. You can also take your kids to a roller skating rink. That has always been super fun. Or I would even take sometimes work to the pool. Can I give you guys just a really, really quick tip here? I'm going to tell you, if you're an entrepreneur and if you're super competitive, what happens, okay? You ready? This is the honest to goodness truth. There are a lot of women who have children who during the summer months will pull way back in business. They just will. They'll post less on Facebook. They'll quit blogging quite as consistently. They'll quit sending out so many emails, and they'll kind of go dormant for a while. But I always took the summer months to really press on the gas. I always, during the summer months, would be like, you know what? I can take this course that I've been taking and I can watch it at the pool. I've got one eyeball on my kids, as do the 2 lifeguards. So I don't want you to think the kids are ever in danger. But while they're at the pool, I could be taking this class while I'm sitting here watching them play. It was a twofer. It was a 2-for-1. And so don't forget just to really be super savvy. You creative women, especially, God didn't only give you the ability to create with your hands in terms of making that buffet gorgeous or creating those gorgeous cupcakes or earrings. No, he also gave you the ability to think way outside the box when it comes to getting some stuff done. So I encourage you, take your kids to places where they can work, or you can work, and they can play. Tip number 3, get a babysitter. Oh yeah, we're to that part of the podcast where I start to sing because it's fun for me. So listen, babysitters. You don't have to have anything set up regularly, moms, but it could just be asking the neighbor girl who's in junior high if she will come sit with your kiddos for the next 2 hours and do sidewalk chalk on the driveway while you bust out all your social media for the week, write a blog post, and return the emails that you need to be doing. That is a win-win. Number one, your kids are having a way better time with a babysitter than they are if you're just sticking them in front of a movie on the television. I promise you that. Number two, you are blessing that young lady who is seriously just dreaming about a new pair of jeans at Forever 21, and you just made her day. Number three, you have given yourself a chunk of time that you can get your head down and ultra focus. Sometimes it's just that chunk of a couple hours that make all the difference in the world. And so I know what some of you are saying. I can't afford a babysitter. Honey, you can't afford not to have a babysitter. You need to have just a tiny bit of sanity if you're going to keep your business afloat. You paying a couple hours of a babysitter's time, and then during that time, you're not upstairs taking a nap, eating bonbons. You're working, right? And your work should be producing income. If it's not producing income, I want you to send me an email and tell me why, and I'm going to try to help you out. But during the time when you're working, you should be generating income or doing the things that are about to provide you income. So hire a babysitter. Doesn't have to be a formal gig. It can be the girl next door. It can be the college girl that's home for a few hours this summer, and she's dreading the thought of going to have to work in a movie theater for the whole summer. She would way rather come to your house on Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. She'll be there at 9 and work till noon. And baby, you are going to rock your business over the summer. So think about who you could have just come sit with your kids for a couple of hours. Tip number 4. Do a child swap with a friend. Listen, my friend Shauna, man, she was queen of this. She was just such a gift to me when my kids were all smaller, because she would say, let me take your kids for a while and you go home and get some crap done. That was her line. You go home and get some crap done. And it was such a gift when she would do that, because my kids loved hanging out at her home. They loved hanging out with her children. They loved hanging out with her. And it would be this unexpected, like, oh crap, okay, Shauna's going to take the kids for 2 hours. I can go home and get all this stuff knocked out and then try to return the favor when I could. But child swapping is a great way, especially if you can find another mother who needs to work for just a little bit or who has a work at home situation as well. But child swapping, amazing. What a gift. So find a mom that you can do some child swapping with. If you don't know any moms, check at your local church. Check at your local church. You're not involved in a local church, get involved in a local church. I can remember when the boys were, Easton was still he couldn't even sit up by himself yet. And Noah would have been 2 because the boys are less than 2 years apart. And I can remember thinking to myself, oh Lord, what have I done? What have I done to our sweet little life? And what have I done to my sanity? These boys are 22 months apart. They are amazing, but I'm drowning over here. I just remember feeling like I'm drowning. I had childcare for 3 hours a week and was still running my business and was desperately lonely. You got to remember, since my boys are now 14 and 16, that during that time, Mr. Magic was working, 50 hours a week. So he would leave in the morning at the break of dawn and he'd get home at dinner time. And if he was even 1 minute late, I would lose my ever-loving mind, because do not be late. I've had these children for the last 12 hours. Can you moms relate? Anybody? So I can remember just absolutely feeling like I was drowning and calling the church that we attended, but that we weren't really plugged into. Do you know what I mean? Like, and by the way, plugged into is Christian lingo for, a lot of people and you've built relationships with the people in your church. Therefore, you're much more likely to go, to attend church events, to stay really committed and in the church when you're plugged in. Okay, that's all that plugged in means. So I literally called like the front office of our church, or the woman that was a secretary or whoever she was at the time. And I said something that sounded something like this. Hi. This is Jennifer Allwood. I go to church here and I've got 2 young babies, and I just am trying to find other moms who are in a similar stage of life who can help me navigate this current stage, because I feel like I'm drowning here. And she was like, okay, here's who I want you to call. And she put me in touch with a woman named Becky, who I did not know. And so I called my best friend, Laura, who was only off on Wednesdays. And I'm like, look, some chick named Becky has a Bible study on Wednesday mornings. I don't even know what that means, but we could bring our kids and I want you to come with me. And this started a friendship, a deep friendship with other moms who are in a similar stage of life that was my lifeline, you guys, for years. So please, if you are in the thick of it and you feel so lonely at this stage with your kids being little, first of all, I want you to remember this will not last forever. But second of all, I want you to know that you're not alone, but it is your responsibility to ask for a lifeline. Okay, so this is when you're going to phone a friend. This is when you're going to phone your church. This is when you're going to phone somebody and be like, look, I need some help. And sometimes that phone call looks like this. Look, I need some help. I've got to work a little bit. Can you take my kids for a couple hours? And that's fine. All right, tip number 5. Tip number 5 is not strategic more than it's more so just a mindset thing. But I want you mamas to wrap your heads around something that may not be an ultra popular statement, but I believe this with everything in me. You ready? All right. I want you to accept the fact that you do not have to entertain your kids 100% of the time. Every day of your summer does not have to be a day of you doing something fun. Listen, if your kids think that every day is all about them, or that they're going to be doing something fun every day during the summer, or that you're going to be playing with them all day, every day, you are seriously setting them up for a very unrealistic vision of the real world. Honestly, you're also robbing them of the opportunity to be bored and to play. I'm going to say that again. You're robbing them of the opportunity to be bored and to play. More creativity happens when kids are bored, not when they're born, when kids are bored than at any other time. Because bored kids, they often just need you to give them one little nugget, like one little direction. Mom, I'm bored. Okay, here's a stack of sheets and the bar stools from the kitchen bar. See if you can make a fort. And then your kids will go at it for hours. I'm not even lying. Mom, I'm bored. Okay, here is an old roll of Christmas gift wrap that mom's going to tape upside down to the floor. And I'm going to let you kids write on it with markers. Got this tip from a client of mine. I just thought she was absolutely genius. Mom, I'm bored. Okay, well then here are a whole thing of sidewalk chalk and a squirt bottle. And I want you guys to go outside and do the best drawing that you can. Make a hopscotch that's 100 squares long. And then we're just going to squirt it and watch it all run off later over popsicles. It'll be a blast. Listen, moms, you do not have to entertain your kids 100% of the time. You can tell them, go play. Mom has to work. This is how I was raised, and this is more than likely how you were raised. And so I feel like sometimes we are raising our children in this generation of them needing to be entertained all day long, and it is not good for them. They need times of boredom with nothing happening, without their electronics, that they can figure out something to do to entertain themselves. I promise you they will if you can just give them a tiny bit of directions, okay? Tip number 6, involve your kids in your business. Listen, your kids are old enough to fill orders. Some of your kids are old enough to wash paint brushes. They can carry supplies for you. They may do a crap job of it, but they are old enough to learn how to do it. If you've got a little bit older kiddos, why don't you teach them how to record you on a Facebook Live? Why don't you teach them how they can post some stuff to your Instagram account for you? Instead of paying a VA to do some of your social media, you can be paying a teenager. Boom. Put them on the payroll, moms. Your kids are not, they are smarter than you give them credit for, and they can be helping out. They can also be picking up some of the slack in the house while you're working, because this is something that on occasion I have to remind my kids, hey, mom needs to work. And I know that you love wearing those new Adidas, whatever shoes that you have on your feet. Therefore, mom's going to need you to unload the dishwasher, flip the laundry, and sweep the floor. The end. Your kids are able to help you. Have them help you. Don't rob them of that opportunity, okay? Tip number 7, determine what work you have on your plate that literally can wait until your kids go back to school. There are some things that we think, we have to be doing all the time. But the truth is, I pull back a ton from my work in the summer at this stage in my business. Now, I didn't used to, but I am able to do that now. And so what I'm able to do at this point is look at my list of things to do and really prioritize. Is the summer or right before they get out of school the best time for me to launch a new program? Probably not. And this is why we only have a 48-hour window that we're reopening the inner circle at the end of June, because we are not planning on doing a full open launch to my entire list for people outside of my wait list until fall. Because you want to know why? I don't want to work that much during the summer. I don't want to work that much during the summer. So what can you put off? I wouldn't launch anything over the summer. You've got to remember that if you have, a program in you, a course, a webinar, if you have an ebook, any of those things, a lot of moms check out for June and July. They just do. So launching in the May, June, July period is just not from a financial standpoint. It's not super savvy, right? So figure out what can you do that can wait till the kids go back to school. If you're going to start a podcast, well, you need to check out my friend Carrie Robina, first of all, but wait until the kids go back to school. If you're going to launch a new program of any kind, just wait till your kids go back to school. You'll be able to focus more and your clients will be in a better state of mind for focusing as well. Okay. Here's my last tip for you, mamas. When you do have the opportunity to work, I want you to work. I want you to concentrate. I want you to focus. I want you to get off social media, turn off the TV that's blaring in the background, get Kanye off of your headsets and your iPod or whatever, but literally get your head down and work. I heard a statistic recently that when we are working, but we're distracted, so we work and then we have to stop and we get pulled away and then we come back and we try to pick up and then we're distracted and we have to pull back and then we start back working, that we lose like 70% or something insane of our efficiency when we're doing it that way. So when you do have the time to work, I really want you to literally turn your phone off, turn the notifications off, put it inside of your desk drawer. Work is not necessarily responding to your Facebook notifications. Work is doing the thing that's going to move the needle for your business. It's doing the thing that you've had on your plate for a year, maybe even 2 years, that you've been wanting to do, that you know if you would just get out into the world, it would be super successful, but you feel like you can't ever get a chunk of time. Okay, well, when you get a chunk of time, please don't spend it responding to your Instagram DMs. You can do that laying in bed at night. When you get a chunk of time, do that big, hard, scary stuff that you've been putting off forever that you know is going to change the trajectory of your business. Those are the things that I literally want you working on. So, Mom, I hope that this podcast was a blessing to you. I hope that you heard a tip in here that you can literally use even next week when most of the kids are going to be out of school. I hope that you will forward this podcast to other working moms so that they feel encouraged and also inspired. I hope that they also feel a swift kick in the booty to keep going. You know that it'll get my goat like none other when I hear moms like use their children as excuses as to why they can't run a business, because I want to flip that. And a lot of times your kids are the reason you need to run a business. Your kids need to see you being productive. They need to see you using your gifts in the world. They need to see you doing something with what God has entrusted you, with that talent that He's entrusted you with. You got to remember with kids, moms, more is caught than taught. So you can be teaching your kids all day long about dreaming big, working hard, setting goals and accomplishing them. But if your children are not seeing you literally walking that out, I think that it means very, very little to them. So I want you to have an amazing summer with your children. I want you to have plenty of downtime where you can play. I want you to pull back a little bit from your business enough that you can really refocus as soon as the kids go back to school. But I also want you, when you have chunks of time, to utilize that to the best of the ability. I don't want you to take your foot off the gas with the momentum that your business currently has. I believe you can be a great mom and have a super fun summer with your kiddos and also still keep growing your business during the summer months. Okay. So I am rooting for you. And listen, I know we were talking about Facebook and we were talking about, not responding to all the notifications when you do have chunks of time to work. I also know just from the emails that I get from a lot of you that some of you are just super irritated by your Facebook engagement right now. And I do have a free gift for you if you would like to go check that out and figure out what you can do to help with your Facebook engagement on your page. Okay. So I want you to go to jenniferallwood.com/Facebook-engagement. jenniferallwood.com/Facebook-engagement. This will also be listed on the show notes at jenniferallwood.com under the podcast heading. And so you'll be able to find that link there. Okay. Email us your ideas and your feedback to podcast@jenniferallwood.com. We always appreciate getting your feedback. And we also appreciate your reviews. Oh my goodness. I was looking at our iTunes account right before I went live with this podcast, and over 300 of you have recently left us a review on iTunes for this podcast. And do you know how much that just blesses my socks off? So your reviews matter. They matter in getting sponsors. They matter in terms of showing up on the iTunes ratings. And they just allow me this, not allow me, they just give me this. It's like you're blowing me little virtual kisses across the iTunes airwaves every time you guys leave me a review. So thank you for doing that. I am honored like crazy that this podcast is listened to and that it's shared and that you're here with us week in and week out. So bless you guys as you raise your kids this summer. I am rooting for you. We'll be back next week with another podcast. And until then, I want you to stay creative. Bye-bye. Hey friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you're here and that you just listen week in and week out and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, or if you're an Android user, go download the Stitcher app and you can subscribe there so that you know every single week when a new episode releases. Also, if you have any time to leave us a review, these reviews are super important in getting guests for the show and sponsors for the show. And so we'd appreciate it if you have just a second to leave us a review. That would be amazing. Thank you guys again for being here. And until next week, stay creative.